Nick in Reno. Nick, welcome. Hi, you're on the Tom Sullivan Show.
Hey, Tom. Great to be on the air with you.
Likewise.
I want to congratulate you on this topic. This is really good stuff. And I was just thinking, the way that the United States usually gets around these ethical issues is they invent a new word. Like instead of calling it bribery, we call it lobbying. Instead of calling it protectionism, we call it tariffs. We just do things a different way, but it's still pushing force. And that's what makes things immoral. And so to break a law is not necessarily immoral. You know, we've had in our history many, many examples of laws that were considered illegal, you know, if you broke them, but they weren't immoral. If you were drinking whiskey during Prohibition or if you helped an escaped slave, you know, those were against the laws,
right.
But they weren't wrong. They were morally right. And that's when a principle called nullification comes into play. That doesn't necessarily work with federal laws. You know, a state can't nullify a federal law.
Right.
Only a federal court can do that. But things like this are where nullification comes in, where we see, this is just how it happens. Whenever you have free trade, the United States wants to have free trade, you know, so we can get the lowest price. But you also get into other borders where you're going to see some exploitation of labor in other countries, and we raise our hackles and say, oh, that's wrong. You know, we can't be trading with these countries because of their practices. But we ourselves, we're loaded with hypocrisy when it comes to lobbying and bribing and our protectionism, our tariffs. So we're no country to say that we've got it all figured out and you have to play by our rules.
That's what I'm having trouble with the semantics, and I have ever since I saw this law back in 1977. When it was passed, I did not understand the difference between what you're describing and what this Foreign Corrupt Practices Act was all about.
You know what helps me boil it down? You can boil all this stuff down to the issue of force. To initiate force against some other entity is wrong. To use your leverage of force. I'm not talking economic force, but I'm talking physical force. We're going to push you to do this. We will, threaten you or your livelihood if you don't do this. That's when things become immoral. And that's when a court should always stand up and have a law ready to say, this is not allowed, this is the punishment for the infraction. But when we start getting in and pushing our own immorality throughout the world, we just call it by different names. All it is semantics.
Yeah.
But when you understand force as the root cause of the issue, of the immorality, then it's easy to see, you could nullify that law because they're just doing what they need to survive.
Well,
they're trying to make a profit.
Besides the name of the law, Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, who's against that? Who's for corruption? Nobody.
Well, that's how the Patriot Act got passed. Well, with a name like that, it must be good.
It's got to be.
It's full of bad stuff. It's full of stuff that takes away our rights.
Yes.
And so just because a law is on the books does not mean that it is moral. That's a huge fallacy in thinking.
What's the last book that Judge Napolitano wrote? His latest one was It's Dangerous to Be Right When the Government is Wrong.
Yeah, and truth is treason in an empire of lies. So when you voice out and you say, hey, this is not immoral, this is not wrong, people are going to call you crazy. When you say things that need to change in the country, they're going to try to silence you.
Well, we had Derek call, and it wasn't Derek, he was the guy from New Jersey who said his stomach was turning over this discussion. He was very upset about this.
He should be. You're talking about
no, but he's upset. He's upset the fact that we don't see that this is wrong what Walmart is doing in Mexico.
Anybody that is trying to say a profit is wrong needs to understand that profits are what drive innovation, all the technology.
No, he wasn't worried about the profit. He was worried about the fact that they were having to pay these fees, these bribes. Like you said, we just call them a different thing here.
It gets the job done. It opens doors, and then your free trade can strengthen the relationship once you get your foot in the door.
How many Mexicans have been employed that would not otherwise have a job?
That's the exact right statement. That's perfect logic right there. This has raised their standard of living. Walmart's decreasing a lot of American standard of living, but it's raising the standard of living of a lot of people around the world.
It truly is.
And that's what free markets do for you.
Yeah.
But there was one more thing I was going to say. You talk about corruption. I was thinking Goldman Sachs has flat out bought this GOP nomination. It's just called by different names, campaign finance. But all they're doing is protecting their profit stream with the Federal Reserve.
Of course. And
so Goldman Sachs is going to make sure Romney gets in.
It's interesting. Well, not just Goldman Sachs. If you've noticed,
Credit Suisse,
Wall Street,
the Federal Reserve's bailed out.
Wall Street has gone. They're still giving Obama lots of money. Don't.
Oh yeah, because Obama's going to continue the same practices.
but they're giving more now to Romney. So they're doing what they've always done. They're giving money to both so that they wind up with a winner.
Yeah, but you notice they're not giving any money to the one principled candidate who's actually going to stand up.
I knew we'd get Ron Paul in here.
Hey, you're the one that brought up his name. I
didn't bring his name up. Hey, by the way, Nick, I'll do it so you don't have to. You see Carl Cameron's report last night on Fox News?
Yeah, I did.
Romney won Iowa, and then, they went back and counted and said, no, it was Santorum who won. And now they are getting ready to do their final vote on who are the delegates to the Republican convention, and it looks like Ron Paul won Iowa.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see how the media tries to silence that, like they silenced the Rasmussen poll.
Well, there was no silence. It was right there on the news last night.
No, I know. It's going to be downplayed as much as it can because they got their narrative that they want to push. And they don't want to see the nation focusing on these true ethical principles of force and laws and nullifications. They don't want people thinking about the real
Who are they? Do I have to pull out my Henry Kissinger talking points I get every day? Come on.
These are important things.
Look, people are who they are. I don't know of anybody who tells any reporter in this building what they have to say or what they don't have to say.
They sure come up with the same narrative independently a lot, and you have to say that's kind of suspect when they all get the same dumb stories.
I will put my hand on your family Bible and swear nobody has ever in 30 years of broadcasting ever come to me and said, you must say this or you can't say that.
Tom, how come you didn't put on your homepage your poll asking about the inflation tax? Get people asking
because
questions.
You are obsessed with it and nobody else is.
You'd be surprised how many people have studied and who really are interested.
You'd be surprised by the primaries and how the votes have come out. That's the problem. You're not willing to accept the voting of the public. Now, whether you think it was right or wrong, and I don't want to get off on that whole subject. We're talking about Mexico and corruption, and we did great up until you had to go down the Ron Paul route.
Hey, you brought up his name.
I did not bring up his name. Not once did I bring up his name. It is my fault. Did I bring up his name? I don't think I did either. I brought up the fact that there was a change in the count in Iowa. Nick, I've always enjoyed your call. We'll take a break. I need a drink. You got any margaritas in there? We'll be right back. My name is Tom Sullivan.
Have something on you.
All right, time to come clean. I've had my margarita, and time to come clean with Nick, who thinks there's a media conspiracy against Ron Paul. Well, what really happened, Nick, was this Mexican guy came up to me and paid me off a bunch of money, and I don't know. He said that's just the way things are done. I'm sorry. I don't know what else I can say about it.